So, today we're talking about the Legend of Avatar roster, specifically the Avatar roster from The Last Airbender. Last video, we talked about the mechanics of the game that I wanted to make, and today we're going to talk about how some of the characters play. I did forget one mechanic from last time. It's the lunge mechanic. So, I don't know if you've seen in Dragon Ball FighterZ, Master Roshi kind of has like this jump instead of a super dash. That's basically what the lunge mechanic is going to be for a lot of these characters. It's going to be where you can kind of go 3D plane to get around certain projectiles. And that costs like, I think, a bar a meter or something like that. So every character has one and you can use it in the ground, in the air. It's kind of similar to like Vanish, where like if someone's zoning you a lot, you could spend your resources and you can kind of get to them. That makes dealing with zoners a lot easier. So last little thing before I start the characters list, if you don't want to see the video for whatever reason, I'm just going to show you everything. Just going to go scroll real slow and you got it. You could read it. It took me a long time to make this. And eventually we'll be making the Korra roster video, and we'll also be making the DLC character roster video, which I haven't started on any of the DLC, but I think with like new ideas and new fighting games that I've played, I think we can come up with a lot of cool ideas. But yeah, I'm just gonna speed run through this. Okay, so now that you guys were able to read all that, we're gonna go straight into it. I don't really know the format of what we're gonna do, but we're going over 12 characters. So the first one is gonna be Aang, the Avatar, the guy that the franchise is about. Since he's the main character, you got to make sure that he's easy to play. You can kind of think of like Goku and Dragon Ball FighterZ. He's not exactly a complicated character, but he's still, he's decent, and he kind of does everything that everybody would want him to do. For his entrance, he jumps off of Appa, and he's kind of like flying down on his glider. I think it's just pretty easy. Duh. So Aang's going to be able to have an air dash and also a double jump because he's an airbender. Remember, we talked about them having a lot of mobility. For his normals, he's going to have grounded medium attacks that have water animations. His heavy buttons are going to be using like earth bending and fire bending. And mainly his special moves are going to be more air oriented and things like that. For his bending attack, I thought what would be really cool is him using his glider as kind of like a helicopter that you can use in both combos and also as a mobility tool, so you can kind of like slow his descent or use it as an ascent. His first special move is going to be Air Slicer. So Aang is going to be able to launch like, slices of air, and they're going to be light projectiles, and he can have up to 3 at a time. He's just kind of doing like quick little swipes, and holding forward will make the projectiles go faster, and holding them back will make them a little slower. So for Staff Slam, Aang is going to jump up into the air, and he's going to slam on the floor. It's going to be like kind of like air kind of effects going on. And it's basically going to be an overhead. You can think of it as like Ramlethal's overhead in Guilty Gear. And this is going to be his armor breaker. Remember, we talked about that every character is going to have an armor breaker that can be used both on the ground and in the air. He's Aang. Of course, we got to have Air Scooter. So Air Scooter is going to be his tool to kind of get around projectiles. If you've seen Soul, he's got a move that's similar. It's called Night Raid Vortex, where he travels very low to the floor and pops up an opponent. So, if it's on block, you're going to be negative, but if you land it, it's going to pop the opponent up, and it's pretty good. And obviously, the air score's got to be really fast, so it's something that your opponents are going to have to definitely look out for. All right, so next up, we got Water Rise, and Water Rise, he's going to be using a kind of like uppercut of water, and he can choose which distance he wants to hit it. Light is going to do one thing, medium a little bit farther, but then if you spend meter on it, it's going to track. And it's going to be very useful for kind of like keeping people at bay where they are almost. You can think of like Garrus's pillars, where, they have to be on their toes at all times, because if not, they're going to get hit. His final special move is going to be his Flame Kick. So for Flame Kick, he's going to do a backflip that halts his momentum right before he lands on the floor. A good way to think about it is kind of like Gogeta's DP. And it's pretty good for air-to-air stuff, and it's going to cause a wall bounce. But it doesn't stop projectiles, it's just kind of like a kick. On startup, this is going to be like his DP. Again, he could use it in the air and on the ground, but this is going to be a little bit more like, I could use it just to get out of situations and things like that. His throw, I like that scene where he kind of grabbed Azula's arm with his Earth Gauntlet and he kind of throws her. I thought that was cool, so we're going to use that. And in the air, you can kind of just like put him in a cyclone and throw him. For his lunge, I wanted him to use his Air Scooter, but it'd be a different animation so that it's like very clear. He's kind of like, how do I explain this? So if I'm here, or the opponent's here, and instead of just like fighting, they'd go like around the projectile and then hit the opponent. It's kind of how lunge works. And in the air, he uses his glider to do the same thing. And yeah, his deflect, he's gonna use his staff to deflect stuff. So, pretty cool. So for his supers, I had a little bit of fun. So Aang's got his first level 1 is gonna be Let It Blow. I named all these, it's kind of stupid, but you know, whatever. Let It Blow. He takes a deep breath in and he lets it all out, resulting in an attack with like huge radius. It's the same thing that he did when he was stopping the volcano. So that's gonna be his level 1. He's also got another one. It's gonna be called Gem Armor, and here he charges at his opponents using his crystalline armor. He can still be hit by supers and heavy projectiles, but it's good against like normal stuff. He can kind of like charge at people, and it's gonna be pretty cool. I have Mega Stalactite for his level 2. So it could just be a rock, depends on the map, I guess. He summons like a big rock formation into the sky, and then he jumps on it and he falls with the rock as it crashes onto the enemy. This is good for locking people down if they're like, you know, they're high up in the sky. You kind of like almost teleport and you go up, you fall down. Of course, for his level 3, we got to give him the Avatar state, and this is going to be him specifically with his orbs. So he kind of like summons all the elements, and then he kind of hits the opponent really hard with it. And the orb will go through supers and things like that. And Aang is going to have a level 4. He's the Avatar. He should have a level 4. So he uses each individual element in a different way, and that ends in all of them kind of into that spiraling beam and hits the opponent. For his install, I wanted him to enter the Avatar state, and the animation will be him like having the orb around him, but it's not going to be like a hittable thing. It's just kind of going to be his orb. And his special moves will have larger hitboxes, and his special moves will sometimes leave him plus on block. He'll gain speed and a damage boost, and the spear will shield him from like certain projectiles, but things like heavy projectiles, they'll be able to pierce through. We'll talk about one of them that, you know, lightning, for example, that might go through that. His 2 assists are going to be the ground to air slicer and then the flame kick. Give it some nice variety. And so yeah, he's an all-around character with a more focus on mobility. His bending attack could be easy for beginners to understand, but also complex enough to give like the more advanced players something to think about. And I think for alternate costumes, we can go with shirtless Aang, you know, with the Avatar state, and then also his Fire Nation stuff where he has hair. I think that'd be a pretty cool, you know, addition to it. So next we got Katara, and for her entrance, I think the coolest thing that she's done in the show is where it's raining and then she kind of just stops the rain. I think it'd be so hard as an entrance. And yeah, so she is a waterbender, so she'll have access to a double jump, but not an air dash. Thing for Katara is gonna be that she can use her water as like command normals that are pretty strong. She's gonna be a mainly defensive oriented character and support character. She's gonna have a 6L that pushes a wave across the floor. It's gonna be low, but it's gonna travel pretty far. And it's going to be basically meant to hold the opponent at a distance. She's going to have her 4M. It's going to be a water whip that she uses against Paku, and it's going to be good for catching people that are jumping as well. And this whip will be an overhead. And then finally, she's got 6H. Now 6H will be counted as like a heavy projectile, and it's going to be the one that she uses when she breaks like metal. And this will be her armor breaker. She'll be able to use this in the air, and it will cause a wall bounce if it connects. So these command normals won't be able to be linked together until you're in install, and I'll explain a little bit what happens then. For her bending attack, I like the idea of Sub-Zero's ice clone. So she's going to be summoning kind of like a wall that can take a projectile, and then also she can detonate it on command, and she could choose where she wants to put it. I think that'd be pretty cool. Her special move is going to be heal. So heal, she can heal one of her teammates using water. She'll be able to heal a substantial amount of health to an assist. So the way that you would use it is like you call an assist, then she would choose who she wants to heal, and during that assist time that it's kind of covering her, she's able to kind of heal your teammates. And depending on how long you hold down the button is how much health your opponent gets back. And if you want to spend meter, you can heal yourself. Next we got water redirection. So here it's a heavy projectile. It's kind of a slower startup time, but what she does is that she kind of like puts a little wave around her and then she shoots it. So that little wave is going to be able to take in projectiles, and then she can shoot it back at the opponent. So it's not great to do it at people's face, but you could do it at a distance, and it's going to be pretty decent. We got the same move, but for the air, I liked when she used it against Azula. She kind of like shot it up towards the sky. You can kind of think of it as like Rain's move, and in Mortal Kombat 1. But this one won't deflect projectiles on startup. It'll travel like an arc, so like kind kind of like a. So I wanted to give Katara a kind of like trip or like a knockdown move. So I came up with low swipe. This is the one she uses against Hama. She kind of like spins them around with the water and they fall. Could be a low, pretty cool. And then obviously we got to have her ice counter. She's gonna have a counter that when she lands, she switches sides with the opponent. And because it's a counter, if you whiff it, you're kind of screwed. But useful to have a counter, and again, like playing off more of the defensive properties of her. So for throws, we're gonna be using her arms as tentacles that she uses against Azula, and she grabs them basically by the feet, throws them away. Her lunge, I really liked when she used almost like an Iceman type slide against Azula in the final Agni Kai, so we'll put that in there. And for her deflects, you know, she kind of just uses a large water bubble to kind of like deflect attacks. Her supers, her water limbs were pretty cool. So again, the scene where she grabs Azula and she was gonna like slam her, that's gonna be her level 1. Her other level 1 super is gonna be this ice slice. She uses it against Paku. She basically just makes like a little tower and she starts kind of throwing ice shards at the opponent. And it's basically just gonna be a bunch of hits. Her level 2, I called it Drip Trip. And here she creates a massive splash, and this one's going to be invincible, and it's going to be able to absorb different projectiles as well. And it's just like a major splash that like does a lot of damage, and it's a huge visual block. So kind of like Change the Future that Trunks has. So yeah, I wanted that. And then her level 3, I had Ice Traps. This is a move that she used against Zuko in the end of book 1, where she basically traps them in ice, and she kind of does like her little water stuff, and then it kind of blows up. So that'd be pretty cool. So Katara's install is going to be her actually starting to heal her members of the team all simultaneously. And if it's only her, the install will just heal her. This is a very strong tool because the way I designed it is that it's going to be able to heal past the recoverable health. So that's the gray health or whatever. So it like really incentivizes the enemy to try and go at you, but I'm going to just be spamming you with assists and while they're getting healed. And also she's going to be able to chain her command normals together, so it's going to be a lot of mix-up things even in the mid-range. And the less teammates she has, the faster the health will recover for the remaining teammates. For her assist, I wanted her to have the healing assist. I think it'd be very useful to have that as one of your assists. And then her second assist will be that arc that we talked about earlier. So Katara, like we said, is going to be very good in the mid-range and like kind of far range, but she's not going to be very good up close, and she doesn't really have the best mobility, but her healing kind of makes up for that. For her alternate outfits, I liked the painted lady attire that she had. I think it's like a very unique look. And then also her Fire Nation attire where she's like kind of wearing all red. And yeah, those would be for Katara. So Sokka is going to be a very important character because he's going to be the first non-bender that people gravitate towards. So we got to make him like super cool, right? And I used the combination of him using both his club and his boomerang. So his entrance, you're gonna be seeing like a boomerang flying across the screen, and it curves back to land in Sokka's hand, and then like, you know, he strikes a pose or something like that. Because he's a non-bender, he's not gonna have any, you know, air dashes or double jumps, but that's fine because, you know, he's got some of the stuff. So his normal is gonna be using a combination of, again, like his club and his boomerang. And his light auto combo, he's just gonna be like bonking the opponent on the head with a club. His auto combo is gonna have a vacuum effect. You can think of like Bardock or UI Goku, where they're just able to like bring people down. So first we have Sokka's bending attack, which is gonna be his trusted boomerang. He could throw it however he wants. He could change the direction, the angle, all that stuff. It's gonna work very similar to Batman's boomerang. I saw that Multiverses had a very good way of like kind of envisioning, because remember, I made this years ago, but the way that Batarang works is like almost perfect to the way I wanted it, where he can angle it however he wants, he could throw it as far as he wants, and then also if it hits the opponent or if the opponent's able to hit it, it gets knocked out and the Sokka has to go pick it up in order to use it again. The reason I did this is because I wanted people to think about when they throw the boomerang. I wanted them to really think about the placement and the timing, and I think that will make Sokka a lot cooler to play than just him throwing it aimlessly. Could probably be used in like setups, like cross-ups and things like that. So just, I wanted him to be super cool. So special moves. So first he's got the bomb throw. So he grabs 2 bombs and he chucks them. You can remember, if you remember Krillin from Dragon Ball, he throws 2 rocks. So it can kind of be a similar angle, but at the bottom they explode. And if you spend a little bit of meter, they stay there for a little bit and then they blow up. So it's good for like traps. Then I got horizontal spin. So this will work kind of like Pyra's blazing end special move in Smash, where he throws it horizontally and kind of stays there, and then it comes back to him. So a great move to like hold people down, but this one can only be used on the ground. I wanted to give him like a club spin, so you can think of Zangief's lariat move, the triple lariat. He'll be able to go through projectiles with it, and then also just a great anti-air tool. You know, when people jump in, you just press that and boom, they start hitting people. And then finally I have overhead club bash, which is going to be where Sokka jumps in the air. You can think of like Trunks, for example, in Dragon Ball. Jumps in the air, smacks him over the head, and this is going to be his armor breaker. It's going to be a good way to change his air momentum when he needs to, and even if it's blocked, you're safe. So that'd be cool for Sokka to have. A throw, normal trip or a throw should do, nothing special. For lunge, he kind of charges at the opponent holding his club up in the air while doing so. We'll have to break a little bit of rules when he's in the air, kind of like, you know, an extra jump, whatever, but it's fine, it's a game. And for deflect, I wanted him to use his club and his boomerang to smack it away. And if he doesn't have the boomerang, he just uses his club to smack it away. So Sokka's got 2 level 1s and a level 3. So his first level 1 is in your face, and he swipes the ground with either a club or his sword, which we'll talk about a little bit. And this creates like a small dust cloud that hits the opponent. And if it connects, then he hits them again with either the club or the sword, and he's invincible during the startup. And then his second level 1 is called headshot. So he throws the boomerang in an angle that tracks, and if it hits the opponent, it'll deal like a lot of damage, but if it's blocked, it'll just come right back to him instead of it just falling to the floor. And his final super, his level 3, is going to be water, like using the water tribe. So he commands the battalion of Southern Water Tribe warriors to charge at the enemy, and his father, Sokka, is going to be there helping him out in the fight and like kind of attacking him. So for his install, I wanted him to have access to his sword, the meteorite black sword that he has, and this will replace basically his club. And so all of his club moves are going to get a damage buff and slight range buff, and his normal attacks will all be done with a sword instead of a boomerang. And his boomerang will now track no matter where he throws it from, so that's going to be pretty cool. And it will always come back to him, so it's going to be a very strong version of Sokka where it will never fall. And when the install is done, he'll use the sword, and it'll kind of like slip from his hand the same way it was in the show, and you can even have the same voice line then. So for Sokka, his assists are going to be his club spin, so his lariat move, and it's going to be used to kind of like go through projectiles. If it hits the opponent, it causes a wall bounce. And his second attack is going to be his spin, like the horizontal spin. So it's going to be great for keeping people blocking. So again, Sokka doesn't really have a ton of aerial mobility, but he makes up for it by his boomerang and kind of like the ability to lock people down and like force them to block, I think is really cool. And him having different tools and really being a master strategist with how you use the boomerang is kind of the way that I wanted to kind of build him. So for his alternate attires, I had his Fire Nation clothes, which all of Team Avatar is going to have their Fire Nation clothes, and then also his Water Tribe Wolf armor, which I think is just sick. And so yeah, we'll put that for Sokka. So next up we got Toph. So Toph is one of my favorite characters of all time, so I really tried to incorporate as many things from the show as I could for her. And we're going to start right off the bat. Her entrance, she kind of just strikes the ground, a huge dust cloud will arrive, and she uses her seismic sense to track where the opponent is, and then she kind of like points to them or probably says like a line or something. So she's going to be a unique earthbender, and she will have a forward dash because she's a tiny, like she's a small person. She's going to be able to jump up in the air and like push off of a rock. That's kind of like the idea that I had for her. So for her normals, I have Kid Buu has these stomps in Dragon Ball where they're kind of like he stomps on the floor and then the little pillars come out. So in the show, she does something very similar, and so I wanted to incorporate that. And then for her heavy normals, I like this giant like headbutt on a big rock. I thought it'd be pretty cool. And her light auto combo will be her shifting the ground beneath her, and so she switches sides with the opponent. Her bending attack is a little crazy, and I don't know if I fully fleshed out exactly how it should work, but basically, it's her using her seismic sense. So you can think of this as a special move because it does have a cooldown. So if the opponents are on the floor, they get hit with the seismic sense debuff, which will have like a ripple effect on their body indicating they have the debuff active, and it slows their ground movement like considerably. If they decide to jump, the moment they touch the ground, the next time they jump, they'll be caught by a trap, and the only way to get out of the trap is to dash either forwards or backwards to escape it. So this is going to be pretty good at her maintaining control of the floor. I don't know. I think it's a little strong, but we'll see kind of how it goes. And hitting Toph with any attack will remove the status effect, or just waiting 10 seconds will also remove the status effect. So special moves. She's first got her Eraser Blow. I took this straight out of Dragon Ball. Super Broly's got like a 45-degree angle, like rock throw. She does something similar in the show, so we'll just put that. It'll be her Armor Breaker, and she could also use it like in the air, where she kind of summons a rock, throws it down. Again, very similar to Broly. So Rock Barrier, she forms kind of like this pyramid in front of her that takes one hit of a projectile, and if something does land, she instantly shoots out another one. So it's kind of like a projectile parry almost, but she can get grabbed out of this, so just be careful with that. Then I got Pillar. So Pillar is just like a small rock formation that she could choose where it is on the floor, and it's kind of similar to Ram's new special move in Guilty Gear Strive, except Toph is going to be able to choose how far it goes and the angle at which it hits. We got another move, his name is Redirection, and this only hits opponents if they're touching the floor. And it's the same trail that she used against the boulder, where he kind of like does the splits. And it's going to be very similar to Hit's move in Dragon Ball FighterZ. She's going to be able to confirm with a lunge if she does land the move. But if it's up close, she doesn't really need a lunge. She could just kind of like confirm from it instantly. And depending on if you spend meter, it could come from behind the opponent or in front of the opponent and things like that. And our last special move is going to be Earth Tunnel. I just thought it would be cool for her to get through projectiles and things like that. She kind of like dives into the earth, that's behind the opponent. Her throw, I like that animation where like Sokka was on the ground and he was in a hole, so she kind of like lifts him up. But this one, she'll be lifting him up and then punching him. And then in the air, she'll just grab them and throw them down, and then a boulder will follow up and like do some damage. For her lunge, I like this one where she's kind of like running on the earth and it kind of like moves her forward. And finally, her deflect is going to be the pillar of earth that she uses against the Earth Kingdom. She kind of like just does things like that and deflects stuff. She got a few supers. So first is going to be Dust Cloud. So she bends the earth and it's going to be a huge Dust Cloud attack that knocks enemies back. It's going to be similar to Katara's special move, but it's a great visual block. So for mix-up characters, it's going to be great if you use this and then you enter with another super. It's going to be pretty good for that. We got Armor Charge, is going to be a level 2. So she traps her opponent between two walls, and then she draws a line in the sand, smiles at the opponent, and puts on rock armor and charges them and knocks them back. So it's going to be pretty good for that. And then finally, I have Melon Lord, which is basically she forms several Fire Nation statues to attack the enemy, and then large boulders lit with fire rain from the sky as she shouts, "I am Melon Lord." So yeah, that's gonna be her level 3. And for her spirit install, I wanted her to have her rock armor or her metal armor, and they work the same, but this allows her to gain super armor on all of her basic attacks as well as her specials. So there will be a damage boost, but not a speed boost. In fact, she'll be a little slower, but she'll still have like the eye slit, which is like a fun nod to the mistake the animators made. But yeah, basically slight damage buff, but she has armor. So the name of the game for her is literally just control the floor. You know, in the air, she's kind of weak. She doesn't have a lot of things in the air, but on the floor, she's got a lot of stuff. So the first assist is going to be her Eraser Blow, and her second assist is going to be her Barrier. So she could use it like defensively, and if it doesn't hit anything, she'll still throw out the projectiles at the end of the animation. So she'll have one assist that goes up and one assist that goes side to side. For her alternate attires, I had her Fire Nation outfit. I just think it's pretty cool. Then I have her Blind Bandit outfit, which is unique. We only see it for one episode, but I thought it was cool. And then finally, we have the one where she has like her helmet. She uses it against the Earth Nation and against Azula. So I think that's a pretty cool outfit too. So then we got Zuko. So Zuko is probably going to be everybody's first Fire Nation like pick. So we got to make him cool, you know? We got to give him some cool Fire Nation stuff. His entrance is going to be him kind of like swiping fire at the opponent. It's going to be basically the same thing he did in the first episode. Because he's a firebender, he's going to have two-way air dash, but not an extra jump. For his normals, we got a couple of them that I thought were pretty cool. You're going to see him and his family have like similar properties because they're part of the same blood. So he shoots out a projectile when he does his heavy attack. And his 2H is going to be a roundhouse that he uses a couple times throughout the show. So Zuko's basic attacks are going to be him using a combination of both just his swords and also fire. And he will also have a vacuum effect, much like Sokka. So the swords give him a lot more range than the average character in terms of his normals. Zuko's bending attack, I have them creating like this area or like this aura of flame, and opponents standing in that zone will start to take burn damage. And he could use this in the air, like kind of make like a smaller zone in the air, but it'll last shorter. Using normal attacks in this area is going to allow him to shoot projectiles from it. So all of these will have light priority, but he can only have one of these areas on screen at a time. And this field will kind of have a cooldown once it's done. So he could either choose to activate this like as a move of its own, or when he uses a DP, which is going to be like kind of like the spinneroni move he does, it's also going to create the aura. And if the DP connects, then hitting your light auto combo will send the blast straight to the opponent and it will track. Alright, so for his special moves, he's got first Fire Blast. Pretty self-explanatory. He shoots out 2 Fire Blasts. He also uses in the air and it's going to shoot like a downwards angle. Again, this is more of a zoning tool. You don't want to really use it up close because you're going to get, you know, your negative. Then I got Fire Lancer. So this is the move he uses against Azula on the blimp. And it's a punch that he could charge it. It's going to be very similar to Bardock's move. And the longer you charge it, the more advantageous Zuko's going to be. So you can kind of move up with different stuff. Then he's going to have the Dragon Dance. So this is going to be like a Rekka move where he performs the Dragon Dance that he's learned through his adventures with Aang. And it'll be 3 hits and he can be stopped at whatever point. So the first hit has a vacuum effect where you can kind of catch opponents on the way in, but the final 2 are meant to like push the opponent away. Then he's got Flame Flip. So he leaps into the air and he does like an overhead kick. And if it's whiffed, he shoots out like a small projectile upon landing, but it will be unsafe if it's blocked. And this will be his armor breaker. Then we got Power Wave, just a reference to Terry Bogard. He shoots out a flame projectile across the ground and it won't stop until it either hits the player or the wall. And it's going to be a light priority projectile and it will hit low, so your opponent has to block it low. So for his throws, I just thought grab him, hit him with the Fire Lancer, pretty good. For his lunge, he'll be able to use his jets to fly towards the opponent. He doesn't really do it in the show, but in the comics there are times where he uses it. And for deflect, he kind of like swipes it away with fire. Pretty simple. His supers are pretty cool. So first one's gonna be Upward Slice. So he runs at their opponent and he strikes them upwards where a stream of fire is gonna follow. So you can think of it as like Vegeto's super, his level 1 super, but backwards. So instead of swiping down, he swipes up. Then he's got Flame Whips. So he creates fire whips that strike the opponent 3 times. It's gonna be his other level 1. So it's mainly used for damage, whereas the other one's used for like a setup. His level 2 is gonna be Lightning Redirection. So lightning bolt literally strikes him and he's able to redirect the lightning and hits it towards the opponent. His level 3 is gonna be his full power fire beam he uses in the final Agni Kai. And he can upgrade this to the Twisting Beams, which is when he ends up overpowering Azula and then an even larger blast comes their way. So in his Spirit install, Zuko replaces the swords that he has with his fire daggers. So using these daggers, he'll be able to inflict burn damage to the opponent even when they're blocking. And his normals will have a little bit less range, but he'll have a little bit more mobility with his flame jets because he'll get access to an extra jump. His first assist is going to be his DP, and it will have a fire animation, but it won't leave like the aura on the screen. And his second assist will be a simple fire blast, so just shoot 2 before he returns. So the outfits for Zuko I had were going to be his book 1 attire where he's got the ponytail. Then I have the Blue Spirit Zuko. And then finally we have the Ember Island Zuko. I just think it's fine. So we'll put that in. So next we're gonna talk about the on again, off again girlfriend of Sokka. It's gonna be Suki. So for Suki, I wanted her entrance to kind of show up with all of her Kyoshi warriors. Again, she's a non-bender, so she's not gonna have the extra jumps and all that stuff, but her warriors kind of make up for that. You're gonna see. Again, she uses her traditional martial arts to fight, and her main attack weapon, or her main weapons, will be the fans that she uses. Again, she's gonna be very fast, and her 5H is gonna be like a shield bash. And what's interesting about this is gonna be able to block certain projectiles. Her bending attack is gonna be her calling individual warriors. So she's gonna have 4 different options for that. So she enters a stance first, and then she can click which warrior she wants to come in. So the first one's gonna do a dive kick and hit the opponent. So she's gonna be plus on that, so she can kind of like follow up and stuff like that. Her second one's gonna be a sword slash. This is gonna be good for hitting or doing some damage on the opponent and kind of like knocking them back. So if she presses the heavy button, a warrior will appear in front of her with the shield, and it's going to be able to block projectiles and also physical attacks. If the physical attack happens, the warrior kind of like just knocks the opponent down. And then finally, pressing the bending attack will have a warrior appear behind her and throw 2 fans, very similar to how Katana does it. So she throws it like that. So she can only call one of these Kyoshi warriors at a time. So she has to wait until one warrior leaves the screen in order for her to call another one. For her special moves, I first have Katana Pierce. So she charges forward with her katana, and the opponents that get hit, they'll get into a wall bounce. But if she gets blocked, it's negative. Then she's got Running Sweep or Swipe. She runs. It depends on what button she presses. A certain button, she's gonna jump up in the air. She's gonna do like the Ko special move that Anji has, where she kind of like hits people with her fan. And this fan attack will be an overhead. But she could choose to do a low sweep that switches sides. Then she's got her own dive kick. This is gonna be another special move. On the ground, she kind of does a backflip and then dives. And in the air, she just dives exactly where she's from. If she spends meter, the kick will actually cross up, and this will be her armor breaker. She's got Kyoshi Dance. So here, Suki kind of does a little spin forward, again, similar to Anji. So she can be grabbed through this, but she's able to dodge projectiles using this. And she can cancel into a warrior command at the end of her spin or when you're spinning through an attack without having to get into the stance. She just presses a button and then like the thing happens. So for her throw, I like that scene where she kind of like tied the guard up, or like the head guy up, tied him up with one arm, and then she kind of like punches them or kicks them. For her lunge, she will kind of like run around the projectile, and in the air, she kind of like just does a flip that puts them directly there. And for her deflect, she uses her shield to deflect the projectiles. She's gonna have 2 supers. So her first one's gonna be Spirit of Kyoshi. So she calls to the sky and a tornado forms in front of the opponent. And during this tornado, she can still move and perform actions. So the idea of this is that she's kind of like calling on Kyoshi to help her out. And that's what the tornado is. It's kind of similar to Rashid's tornado, where she can still move around. So that's basically what it's gonna be. And then her level 3 is going to be Warrior Assault, where she basically commands her troops and all of the Kyoshi warriors kind of lay the smack down together. That's basically what it's going to be. For Suki's Spirit install, she's going to be able to access 2 Kyoshi warriors at the same time. So she can call whatever she wants. And any action that she does is going to be repeated behind the opponent. So you can think of this like the Morrigan, how she uses that special move. So she'll have an extra warrior behind the opponent also doing stuff. And if you get hit by something, it's going to do double the damage because there's 2 warriors attacking. So a lot of pressure going on, and it's pretty strong. Her first assist is going to be her doing a Katana Pierce, you know, kind of good range, and it gives a wall bounce, but not a lot of block stun. And her second assist will be her calling the Kyoshi warrior that absorbs a projectile. And if the opponent uses a physical attack against the warrior kind of like just holds the attack. The opponent's kind of like dazed, I guess, but they won't get knocked down. So again, she doesn't have a lot of projectiles. She's mainly going to be a mix-up character or like pressure fighter, but that's fine. You know, she's got a lot of tools that help her do that, just that. So Suki's going to have 2 alternate attires. So her first one's going to be the one that she used at I forgot what it's called. I think it's called Black Rock or something like that, or Castle Rock or something like that. So she's going to be using that prison attire, and then her second one's going to be her Fire Nation attire she uses in the last episode and like a little bit before that. So next up we got June. So June's going to be a very interesting character. She's going to work very similar to like Ferritor in MKX, where there's 2 characters going on here, you know, that you have to deal with. The Shirshu, which is Nyla, and then June herself. So for entrance, kind of a black and white version of the stage is seen, and a colored scent appears, and you see Nyla following that scent. And June is sitting atop Nyla, and she cracks her whip, and then color returns to the screen. I think it'd be sick. So she'll have different attacks depending on whether she's on or off Nyla. So on Nyla, her light attacks will be scratches. They'll be slower. So like the trend will be slower but more power on Nyla, faster, less power off Nyla. The only thing notable about this that I kind of want to highlight is that her 2H will have a little bit of armor when you use it when you're on Nyla, but off of Nyla, she won't have any armor. So for her bending attack, it's going to be changing where June is in relation to Nyla. or she'll always start the match with her being on top of Nyla, but she can leap off whenever she wants. So this kind of gives June almost a double jump where Nyla can jump up and then June can jump off of Nyla. It's kind of hard to show you how it works without, like, you know, having a build, but essentially with her bending attack, she can call Nyla as an assist almost. So she can choose to ride Nyla if you just press it. If you press a different input, she will go to where you're standing and she'll stay there, and it could be used kind of like a barrier, so that June doesn't get hit by certain things. And, you know, doing another action will have Nyla do certain scratches or some of her special moves. But Nyla by herself won't have any armor, so if you do hit Nyla while June and Nyla are separated, then Nyla will have like a cooldown where she can't get called until a little bit. For her specials, on Nyla, she'll have the tongue grab where she kind of strikes the opponent. It'll be towards the air and it will be like a stun almost. It will be a grab, but it's going to be a stun that, like, you know, the opponent can't really do much. And then you have Claw Dig where she kind of stands on her 2 legs and scratches the opponents with her claws. And June could choose to jump off during this animation and hit from the other side. So it's going to be some shenanigans involved. And then finally, I have the Shirshu Rekka, where she does a Rekka attack, and it combines overheads and lows, and depending on what buttons, you can change up the order, so that'd be pretty cool. And this will be her armor breaker. June will also have 3 special moves. So off Nyla, she'll have the Whip Flurry, so kind of very similar to Poison. She kind of does a flurry of stuff, and she can cancel them into a Nyla command if Nyla's still active. And then she's got the Whip Crack. So the Whip Crack, she could choose which height she wants to hit it with, but also the distance. So she can kind of like move back and forth, but she can't block during the stance. It's kind of like a stance. Then she's gonna have this hit grab that's in the air. So basically the way it works, she throws it up. If the opponent blocks it, nothing happens, but if they get hit, she kind of like is able to grab them, whip them down to the floor, and she can follow up for a combo if she wants to. I should probably show you guys just how like complicated I made this. Like I'll go slow on it, but like you see, there's color coordination on like which moves work and which moves don't depending on who you're on. But damn, yeah, I put a lot of work into this one specifically. So for her throws, she uses her whip to catch the opponent, and Nyla smacks them away with her tail if you're, you know, on Nyla. And off Nyla, she grabs the opponent with her empty hand and delivers a side kick to the gut. Her lunge, when in the air or off Nyla, she uses her whip to pull herself towards the opponent. So she'll still be like going around the plane, but she'll be like using them as a tether almost. And when she's on Nyla, but on the ground, Nyla just kind of runs straight at the opponent before jumping to attack. And then deflect, you know, Nyla can just scratch the opponent away, or June can just hit it with the whip. Her level 1 is going to be the armored charge. So June calls Nyla, jumps on her back, and then she basically just charges like Ride the Lightning, the way Kai does. And it'll be armored, knocks the opponent back, and yeah. After the super, she's going to be on top of Nyla. And you got Whip Grab. So Whip Grab is going to be a command special move. It's kind of hard. There's not really an example that I've seen in fighting games that does this, but she kind of whips the opponent around the neck and then kicks them high into the sky. And then after that, she's off of Nyla. And then her level 3 is going to be Drag and Drop. Same kind of thing that Catwoman does in Injustice 2. She whips them around the legs, and then Nyla kind of just runs. And that's about it. And for her Spirit install, June gives a scent to Nyla of the opposing player, and the screen itself will go black and white, and the only thing in color will be the opponent. And during this state, Nyla's normal attacks are now faster, and so is her movement speed. And now Nyla's normal attacks also gain an extra hit of armor, so kind of like Toph in a sense. So it'll be very difficult to challenge her in this state. The assist for June, her first assist is going to be Nyla's Claw Dig, so just like a flurry attack, and it's just good for locking down opponents or holding them in place for them to be hit. And her second assist is going to be the Whip Crack, so she kind of like holds it, bop, wall bounce. Perfect. So yeah, I think like this is a very, very complicated character to make, but I just think it's so fun. And like I'm reading this again for the first time, and it's like, wow, I really thought of a lot of things. And like just seeing how it would be in a normal fighting game, this just seems so broken. This seems so broken. But literally, this is like the definition of a hard to pick up and hard to master kind of character. So I think that's kind of cool. I don't have any ideas for alternate attires, but maybe you can have like ones where she's got like water tribe traditional clothing, earth. So next up we got Ty Lee. So for her entrance, she's just gonna kind of come in, do a front flip, strike a pose. Pretty simple. So she is a non-bender, but she has a lot more mobility than other people do. She won't have an air dash or a double jump, but she's gonna be able to cling onto walls and jump off of them. Her bending attack is gonna give her an extra grounded dash, so she'll be able to move away very quickly. It's gonna be very hard to hit her, and she can be canceled. It could be canceled from her original dash, so she can dash forward and then just dash quickly back. You can almost think of it as like literally a dash macro. And she can go into her other special moves from clinging onto the wall. So first, you got the chi block restand. So this is the whole thing of Ty Lee. Ty Lee is able to negate people's bending. And that's super strong in this game because most people are going to be benders. So if they could stop you from bending, that seems like a very hard thing to fight. So for the chi block restand, she just unleashes a flurry of strikes that stuns the opponent, leaving them in a restand situation. And if the opponent's blocked, the Ty Lee will still be kind of positive, just barely, but she'll still be positive. It restricts bending and special moves for a short time. Let's say like 5 seconds. They can't do any special moves. I'm just saying that seems already in and of itself, it's a great addition to the team. So Ty Lee will also have flips. This is kind of very similar to Trunks, where she can kind of move back, forward, wherever. And it's going to be her main tool to extend things in the air when she needs to, and also just to get her around the screen. Then we got shoulder pressure. So here she can leap either from the ground or an attack from the sky and hit the shoulder pressure point on the opponent, and she switches sides. And this will be a command grab. It could be anti-aired because it's, you know, coming from the air. The enemy will fall to the ground, and upon standing back up, they won't be able to bend for a short time. And if the character is a non-bender, then they'll just do damage, but it will restrict special moves for a while. And this will be her armor breaker. So then we got counter. So she basically just counters the opponent, like kind of like a parry almost, and just puts them a good distance away. Not really far for zoning range, but not close enough to be right in their face. Her throw, I want her to do like a Hurricanrana from WWE, if you've seen that. And in the install, it will cause a wall bounce. On the ground, Ty Lee will do her little Naruto run towards the opponent, and in the air she'll kind of just like flip towards them. And for deflect, she just kind of like swipes the attack away, like maybe she kicks it away or something like that. For her supers, first you got the cross-up super. So this is going to be very similar to Chip's full screen super, where he kind of like hits from every direction. So she kind of like just dashes upwards and just goes back and forth across the screen, and then she finishes it by kicking them downwards. And then her level 3 is going to be run and jump. So she runs at her opponent, jumps over them, and attacks them from behind. And if the super connects, the opponent's unable to bend or use special moves for a short while. And Ty Lee can change what side she wants to hit. So the main thing about this one is that she can mix up what side the super lands on. And so that's not always easy, especially if you're like, you know, you're already dealing with so many things. So her spirit install is also crazy. So every single one of Ty Lee's normal attacks and specials now remove bending and special moves. Even jabs with bending effects will be affected if she's an install, and she'll get a speed boost but not a damage boost. The timer for the special move will be restarted after every final hit of a combo. So it will only start once the last hit has connected, and she'll be able to combo off of normal grabs instead of just like throwing them away. For her assist, her first assist is going to be her chi block restand. So opponents hit by it lose their bending for a little bit. And her second assist will be her counter, and if the opponent is hit with the counter, they get knocked back and put into a wall bounce. So yeah, I think she's like a very unique character in the sense that nobody else can do what she does. And because she's kind of like, if she touches a bender, it becomes such a, almost like it's such a challenge for you to fight. I don't know. I think just that move by itself, or those moves by herself, are just like enough to put her on every team, in my opinion. I don't know. And for her alternate attires, I chose her Kyoshi Warrior uniform she used when they took over the Earth Kingdom, and then also the classic Ember Island outfit. Everybody's gonna be playing with this one. Whatever. So next we got Mai. So for her entrance, she just kind of walks very calmly onto the stage, looks at her nails, and she kind of like just, you know, looks at her nails, and that's how the fight starts. She's gonna be one of the premier zoners in the game because that's basically her bread and butter. All of her normals will be throwing knives. They won't be very far ranged, like they won't be full screen is what I try to say, but they will be little projectiles that kind of extend the range a little bit. So for her bending attack, Mai has this sai. So this is the bigger sai that she uses. She could throw this in any angle that she wants to. She could be in the air, throw it wherever she wants to, literally all 8 directions or whatever you want to say. And it'll be a medium priority, but she can hold on to it and like charge it, and it'll be a heavy projectile. She could have the charge and then like in combos let it go and do a lot of damage that way. First special move is going to be her rapid fire stiletto. So she basically uses her bracers to shoot a series of stilettos at the opponent, and yeah, they'll just all combine to equal 1 medium projectile. And she could be able to use it in the air, so she'll just fall, kind of similar to Hawkeye when she kind of just like, you know, shoots the things and he falls in the same gravity. Next, she's got knife spray. So this is similar to Ibuki, where Ibuki throws a couple of knives out at a time. So she's gonna do the same thing, and these knives are thrown at separate attack heights. Some of them are going to be 90 degrees above her, others 45 and all that stuff. So she could choose which order she wants to throw them in. So she could throw them in from the top to the bottom, or bottom to top, or from the middle out. So she's going to have a lot of ways to hit the opponent from anywhere. She got knife splat. So knife splat, she throws 2 knives at the opponents at their sleeves or at their arms. And once the projectiles hit, it carries them all the way to the corner. And then she can cancel into any of her special moves to deal some damage. We got slide and roll. So here she kind of slides on the ground and hits a low projectile, and connecting with it will switch sides, and she could choose to either roll forwards or back if the input is tapped, and if it's held, she'll enter the slide. The roll will let her go through opponents, and she can low profile most projectiles, but she'll get hit by low projectiles if it hits. Slip counter is a projectile counter, so it's when she dodged Katara's attack or throws, she does a trip, shoots a knife at them. In the lunge, she kind of lunges at the opponent, not pretty exciting, and then on the ground she kind of uses her run, again the same Naruto run type of thing she does. And her deflect, she uses stilettos to deflect the projectile. So I was thinking maybe she kind of like, she shoots at the projectile. I think that'd be cool, I don't know. For her super, she's got 3 of them. So her first one's gonna be her buff. So by spending this meter, she can upgrade the priority and damage of her special moves for a little bit. And this is effective when you're trying to chip the opponent heavily. Obviously it's not gonna kill, but just to get a lot of chip damage. Then she's got high kick. So she kicks the opponent with like an invincible reversal. And then if she connects, she jumps up, throws 2 knives, and like kind of pins them to the floor. And then her level 3, I called it dodge this. And she basically just shoots all of her projectiles at the same time, and each one being doubled a little bit after it's thrown. She can't move around, but you know, just a lot of damage overall. And for her spirit install, her bending attack is now always a heavy projectile, and all of her projectiles deal a little bit more damage. And on block, her projectiles are now safe, even if she's right in front of the opponent. And the knife spray will now auto track to where the opponent is. And her rolls will now have increased range and be faster. So yeah, I made her kind of broken, honestly, for a zoner. I made a lot of broken characters here I've seen. So for Mai's assist, you have her knife spray. So she just throws them all at the same time. Good for hitting really anyone in front of her. And then her second assist will be her rapid fire stiletto, which will act like a beam, essentially. For her alternate attires, I chose the Kyoshi Warrior outfit just so she can match Ty Lee. And then also her Ember Island outfit, just so she can match the rest of the Fire Nation kids. All right, so now we're talking about everyone's favorite crazy firebender. It's Azula. So Azula, I kind of wanted to make her the Akuma of the game. So she's gonna be powerful and also flashy. For her intro, you gotta have like a shadow and then like her bell toll, and then she kind of like faces the opponent, ready to fight. She's gonna have a 2-way air dash, kind of like the other firebenders. So for her normals, so she'll have like blue fire accents on everything she throws. Most of them are gonna be kind of like kicks or sideways slashes. For 5H is gonna be a firebending drop kick that will shoot a short range projectile, kind of similar to Zuko's 5H. And it's a light projectile, but it's not gonna last full screen, but you know, whatever. But because she's in the air when she does this, she'll be able to dodge grounded projectiles. This will be her armor breaker, so pretty cool. Her 2L will shoot out like a short range fire flame. It will have a longer startup than most, but it still travels a little longer. And then she'll have a unique wake up option. You can think of like UI Goku. She does a push up from a seated position after she gets knocked down and shoots a fireball. So she's invincible during this attack, but you know, if it's blocked, she can get hit. So her bending attack will be her throwing 2 fireballs, but they're gonna be a little slower. They're mainly tools to run behind. So she can't throw another 2 until they've gone away. So in the air, she'll shoot them kind of like Akuma, you know, the 2 fireballs. And on the ground, she'll have like a stance like Shiva. And she can choose to either shoot 1 or both, but she could also choose the speed. So if she wants to shoot them fast, she can, but by default, they'll be shooting them kind of slow. So for her special moves, we got Flame Orb. So she spawns a Flame Orb very similar to Broly, and it will block any medium projectile coming its way, but it can only absorb 1 projectile, and certain projectiles that are heavy priority or supers are going to be able to break through the shield and put Azula in a stun state. Then she's got Charged Lightning, so she could shoot lightning from her fingertips. She can either shoot it out normally, like, well, we're going to see in the next video, Mako can shoot out lightning, or she could choose to charge it for extended block stun. So then it would count as a heavy projectile if she charges it. So the reason I chose her to have lightning over someone like Zuko is because she was able to master it pretty quickly and use it in combat. So I wanted her to have that. Then we got Fire Lancer. So Fire Lancer is going to be the same one that Zuko has. You know, you charge it up, very similar to Bardock's, and then when it lands, does a lot of damage, does a lot of block stun. But cool little effect, if her and Zuko land the move at the same time, it's going to cause an explosion and push them both back. I think that'd be pretty cool. Then we got a DP. I want her to have a DP. Zuko has a DP as well, but it'll make her closer to Akuma, I guess. And yeah, maybe you could have the same animation, but with blue fire, but you know, whatever. And if you spend meter, you get like an overhead attack that'll be safe when she comes down from the DP. For her throw, she just grabs them, kicks them. For her lunge, I like in the final Agni Kai where she uses her flames to propel her. I think that's pretty cool. On the ground, she'll just kind of go behind them like that. In the air, she'll just use fire to push her towards the opponent. The deflect, she'll just use a roundhouse kick to kick the fire away, or to kick the attack away. For her supers, so first she's got her downward slice. So this is going to be just like Vegeto's super. So it goes down. So Zuko has one that goes up, hers comes down. For level 2, I have Agni Kai attack. So she just does like a Rekka series that leads to a sliding knockdown when it connects. And it's a 4-hit special move, so she kind of just does that. Then she has her own full power fire beam, so same thing that Zuko has, right? But her level 4 is called Watch Your Back, where she kind of goes around the opponent and hits them with extra blast. So it's the thing she used against Zuko when he started overpowering her. So her spirit install is kind of cool. She will get like a mix of lightning and also blue flame, and the fire and lightning will cut her hair so it matches that of like the final Agni Kai. So she's kind of like insane now, and she'll have a new stance that she had from the same scene. So like her normal like stance is like a little different, and she gains this damage and a speed boost and an increased hitbox for her special moves that use fire, her dragon punch, her lancer. Her flame orb will now be the same as Broly's, where she can recharge it every 7 to 8 seconds, and it'll just last that long. It doesn't matter how many projectiles hit her, she'll just have it on, but she'll be immune to everything other than supers. And then she can charge her lightning faster, and she'll also have access to a tri-jump. So kind of like Magneto, she can kind of like just dash diagonally downward. And she'll also gain a new special move. So this is like a triple flame roll. So she does a front flip, like on the ground, and like a wall of flame kind of like crashes down on the opponent, and it can catch people from the air and on the ground. So the way you're going to use this is that you pop the flame roll, and that flame is going to give you enough time to charge your lightning to do even more pressure. But when she loses her install, her hair stays the same, but she goes back to her normal stance, and she loses access to her special move and all the extra buffs that she had before. Her first assist is going to be her charge lightning. So again, it's going to have a longer startup time, but it will do more damage and a higher block stun. And then her second assist is going to be her fire lancer, which gets enough block stun for your team to go for like mix-up stuff. So for Azula, I got a few costumes. I thought the Earth Kingdom attire that she had will match her with Ty Lee and Mai with having their Kyoshi Warrior outfit, and then her Ember Island outfit, because duh. So yeah, those would be the outfits I'd pick. So next up we got Iroh. So Iroh, he's gonna walk in kind of just drinking some tea, offer it to the opponent. If he doesn't, he's gonna offer it to them. He's gonna be like shrugging and then like kind of, you know, ready to fight. So he, even though he's a firebender, he's not gonna have air dashes. And this is because he's, you know, a little bit older and he's just not as mobile as the other firebenders. His 5H, very similar to Azula and Zuko, where it shoots out a short range projectile. It kind of does, you know, a drop kick. And his bending attack is gonna be him drinking tea. So he could take up to 4 tea sips. This is gonna be similar to Jamie's. Again, I wrote this years ago, so it's kind of weird that Jamie has something similar and it's also 4 levels, but whatever. So each sip makes his special moves do more damage, and they make your special moves be safer on block. And if you use your Dragon's Breath special move, which I'll get into, it goes back down to level 0 and you'll need to drink more tea to get out. So the opponent can also lower this level by hitting him. So the more hits pile up, the lower level the tea drinking comes down. So at level 0, his Dragon Breath will only shoot fire in front of him. At level 1, it will hit both sides. So he does like a little spin and it hits both sides. At level 2, he has invincibility to normal attacks and special moves while he's in his Dragon Breath. Level 3, he'll have grab invincibility and it will cause a wall bounce if it lands. And level 4, he'll have full invincibility to all attacks, including supers, during the animation, and also cause a wall bounce. So again, what is his Dragon's Breath? He basically just unleashes fire from his mouth, and that's why they call him the Dragon of the West, right? And he can use it as projectile, but it's very short range. It's not really very large. But, you know, depending on the projectile priority, you get more damage, you get a little bit extra range, so pretty cool. Then he's got Flame Swipe, so he kind of just swipes the area in front of him with fire. It's kind of a DP and can be used on Wake Up, and it inflicts a burn damage to the opponents that are hit. You can think of it as like Yozansen from Baiken in Guilty Gear. Kind of like does a swipe. You can use this in the air as well if he wants to. He's got Fire Beam, so Iroh shoots a beam of fire at a 45-degree angle, so it's very good for catching opponents in the air. So he just kind of shoots it up, similar to GT Goku. He can only do it on the ground though. He's got Fireballs, which he shoots 2 slow-moving fireballs. You can think of them like Piccolo's, his Ki Blast, where they do track, but they're very slow. They're very slow, but they track. And he can use them to add damage to his combo because he can run behind them and then like make the opponent run into them. That pops them up and things like that. And this will be his armor breaker. Then he's got Parry. So Parry, he basically catches a limb from the opponent and he knocks them back, but he's able to continue the combo. So you can think of it almost like a drive rush. If you think, like, you want to think of it like that, like a drive rush parry into a drive rush. For his throws, he grabs the opponent by the collar, hits him with a strong punch. His lunge, he kind of just jumps towards the opponent, and he uses his drop kick backwards to get towards the opponent. His deflect, he just kind of kicks it away the way he did it in the show. So he's got 2 supers. His first super is going to be his Wall of Flame. So this is the same move that Zhang uses. So it catches supers. So if it does catch a super, he will shoot the flame wall forward, but the initial wall just is a pop-up. But if the opponent hits him with the super, the wall gets bigger and then gets shot out of him. He's not flying during this, he's gonna be on the floor, but whatever. And then he's got Power of the Comet. So Iroh starts the move by exhaling deeply and releasing a wave of flame, and then he follows up by creating a very powerful blast. And even if the aura whiffs, the rest of the beam kind of comes out. So for his Spirit install, he doesn't have to drink tea anymore to power up his Fire Breath. His Fire Breath will be at a level 4 for the duration of it, and it will always cause a wall bounce. He gains a damage boost, but not a speed boost, and all of his special moves now cause burn damage. He also gains Charged Lightning Attack. So he's the first person in the show that we see use lightning, so it makes sense for him to have it. So basically, lightning hits him, and then he's able to charge it up and shoot. That's basically how it's going to work when he's in install. His first assist will be his fireballs, like the slow moving ones, so it'll be slow moving and they track. And his second assist will be his fire beam, where it kind of works like GT Goku. So yeah, great lockdown assist. So for his alternate attires, I like the buff one that he has, like when he's in the prison, so just kind of like shirtless Iroh. And then I liked his Earth Kingdom attire. He uses it in Legend of Korra as well, but either from ATLA or from Korra, it's fine. And then obviously his White Lotus attire, because that's just sick. He's got to use that. So last but not least, on the Avatar The Last Airbender side, we have Ozai. So Ozai is the big bad of the series, so of course I had to leave him for last. So for his entrance, I think it'd be really cool if he arrives on one of his blimps. He breathes in and out, and then he lets out the fire, and he flies towards the opponent. I think that'd be sick. So he is gonna have a lot of aerial movement. We see him use it a lot in the fight against Aang. Just in base, he's gonna have his air dash, like just his normal air dash. So his 5H on the ground and in the air is gonna be the same drop kick that the other people of the royal family have. So it shoots out a little projectile and it causes a wall bounce in the corner. So for his bending attack, I like the idea of him shooting a beam of fire straight up from his mouth. This will go vertically to the top of the screen, and it's a very effective anti-air, but it has almost no horizontal hitbox. You could think of it as like UI Goku's DP move, where he kind of just shoots up a large beam upwards. So pretty good, and hitting the opponent will cause a wall bounce. For his special moves, you got air lightning. So Ozai is the only person that can fly and shoot lightning at the same time. That was sick, that's all I'm gonna say. So he could charge his lightning in the air and shoot it either diagonally downwards, like a dive kick almost, or he could shoot it upwards or in front of him. He could choose whatever he wants. So this move does halt projectiles, and it counts as a medium projectile. But if he fully charges it, it's a heavy projectile, and it's his armor breaker. His next special move is gonna be Flame Shockwave. He basically just smashes the floor, and then a large area of fire on both directions kind of like moves slowly towards the opponent. If he's in the air, he kind of just jumps down and does it, but if he's on the ground, he just kind of punches the floor. It's gonna be a low attack, so they gotta block it low. Then he's got one-handed flamethrower. So Ozai uses a flame, or he just sticks out his arm and he just berates the opponent with fire. And it will be relatively slow, but it takes up like around a third of the screen, but it has a lot of blocks done. That's the main thing. So the longer you hold this, the higher the burn damage, but the longer you hold it, the more negative you are. So you gotta be careful with that. And then finally, he's got his like flying Superman move or whatever. I just grabbed it from Raiden. I thought it's cool. It's a good move for corner carry as well. So he basically just charges at the opponent and throws them on the ground, and it will whiff on crouching people, but it could be anti-aired with a 2H easily. But yeah, it could be done on the ground and in the air. For his throw, I wanted him to do like a choke slam, so he just grabs them, choke slams them. For his lunge, just uses fire jets to get to where the opponent is, doesn't matter where they are. And for his deflect, just an outward swipe, similar to most reflects in Dragon Ball, but he does it in the show. And then we look at his supers. So first, he's got his downwards fire beam. So he shoots a fire beam at a downwards angle. Yeah, he does it in the show, and it's pretty sick. And he's got his upwards lightning. So if you want to hit someone in the sky, use a different move. He shoots a very, very large strike of lightning up for the sky, and it's great for covering most of the sky. Then you got onslaught. So Ozai just attacks the opponent with a series of blasts, ending with a huge plume of fire. And then his final move, I called it Tri-Beam just because he uses 3 limbs. I don't know what it's actually called, but he tries to finish his opponent by using 3 enormous fire beams that come basically from all directions. In his install, he'll gain access to his jet-powered flight, so he'll be able to move around the air with an 8-way air dash, and will have access to longer combos. His jets will grant him 3 total jumps and an extra air dash, so he's gonna be like zooming through the screen. These extra jumps will be unscaled, making it super dangerous for you to jump up. And his flame attacks also do more damage, and they have a slightly larger hitbox. And any lightning attacks will change to full power flame blasts, and this grants him a speed and a damage buff. His first assist will be his air lightning, but downwards. You can think of like Cell from Dragon Ball, where he shoots it down. And his second assist will be his bending attack. So you can use it as like a anti-air lockdown assist. So if people are in the sky, you just kind of like shoot them out of the sky. So for his base attire, I wanted him shirtless, but we could definitely change that and just make his classic attire his normal attire, and then shirtless could be an alternate. And then finally, I wanted to add the Phoenix King, just because I think the Phoenix King looks so cool with the helmet. It's not super different from the other one, but like, whatever, it's slightly different. But yeah, so that has been my Avatar roster list. I will still be making a Korra one, and I will still be making a DLC one, but these take a long time to make because I have to find all the clips and whatever. But yeah, if you liked what you saw or you have any ideas on how these characters should play, let me know in the comments below. Leave a like and subscribe. This has been the Avatar roster for The Legends of Avatar.